Good morning and welcome to the devotions for November the 2nd. This year is definitely getting on apace, even with everything that's happened. Last week, as I was considering what to share today, I looked ahead of time at today's daily readings in the Methodist Prayer Handbook. And the Old Testament reading for today, well, if you're doing the Bible course, you will have already read it because it's part of our homework. So I'm going to read it and just share a few musings on what I came up with out of the reading. The reading is Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 to 9, and it's the call of Abram. The Lord had said to Abram, "Leave your country, your people, and your father's household, and go to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you." So Abram left as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. He took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, all the possessions they had accumulated, and the people they had acquired in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan, and they arrived there. Abram travelled through the land as far as the site of the great tree of Moreh at Shechem. At that time the Canaanites were in the land. The Lord appeared to Abram and said, "To your offspring I will give this land." So he built an altar there to the Lord, where he had appeared to him. From there he went on towards the hills east of Bethel and pitched his tent, with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. There he built an altar to the Lord and called on the name of the Lord. Then Abram set out and continued towards the Negev. I want to look at verse 5. They took all the possessions they had accumulated. Don't know how long they had lived in Haran, but Graham and I have lived in our house for 32 years. We bought it shortly before we were married. And one of the reasons why we've never moved is because the thought of packing everything up fills us with dread, so we've stayed where we are. And I look around my lounge that I'm sitting in right now. You can see the pictures behind me. And there's photographs, obviously, of the family. There's ornaments and knickknacks that have either been given to me by other people or I've inherited. But then I think about the rest of the house too. The loft. We all have them, don't we? Thankfully, my loft is plastered out and carpeted as Graham uses it as his office. But half of the loft is full of stuff. There's boxes up there with photos in. There's camping equipment up there that's never been near a campsite for many a long year. There's boxes up there, one for each of my children, that have their scan pictures in, birth cards, christening cards, various pictures that they've made at school. Will they want them when I'm no longer here? I very much doubt it. William Morris, the designer, once said that you should have nothing in your home unless it is beautiful or useful. Now, he never said anything about being sentimental. This is something that I inherited. Is it beautiful? Not really. Is it useful? Well, yes. It's a box. I put things in it. In fact, it had things in it which I have now put somewhere else. Is it sentimental? Well, yes it is, because it belonged to my gran, and it's been around for as long as I can remember. How do I know it belonged to my gran? It's got her name on the top, Mrs. Tate. Now, I'm sure when Sarai was packing up her house, it was a lot easier than if we were to pack up. There'd be no washing machine to unplumb and drain. There'd be no microwave to pack up safely. There'd be none of the electronics to unplug, and that dreaded drawer of wires to look through, that nobody knows what the wires belong to, but we're keeping them just in case. We all have one, I know. But I'm sure as Sarai was packing up things, there was not just things that were beautiful, maybe the fabrics that were hanging around her home, or practical, useful, like the cooking pots that she would use. But I'm sure there was also sentimental stuff. Maybe those cooking pots had been gifted as a wedding present from somebody. Maybe the low tables and stools in her home had been made by a family member. Same goes for the soft furnishings, the cushions and the bedrolls. I'm sure just like us, when we start tidying and sorting, either because it's spring and we need to spring clean or because we're moving, she would have got waylaid, remembering the things that she was sorting through. Thing is, possessions can either be a blessing or they can be a hindrance. I'm sure many of you who have seen the programmes on TV about hoarders that fill their homes with, well, to most of us, junk. But for them, it's a security blanket for whatever reason. But it causes them untold problems. Both health-wise, physically, they might fall down the stairs because there's so much clutter, but also mentally, because they haven't got any space to move, to be who they're meant to be, because they're surrounded by all this stuff. And you can sometimes see the relief on their faces when their houses are finally cleared. Some people can also get too attached to things, and that becomes a hindrance too. Maybe William Morris was right in what he said, that we should only have things in our house that are beautiful or useful. That's a very difficult thing to do. And I'm sure when Sarai was sorting through her home, would she be making piles? They wouldn't have had charity shops back then, but would she be making piles of stuff to be thrown away, to be taken with them, to be left behind and gifted to other people? Just because something is no longer useful to us doesn't mean it cannot be used by somebody else. Have a look around your home today. Is everything in your house beautiful? Bearing in mind, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Is it useful? Is it sentimental? Sometimes we can be held back because of what we deem to be important, when really, do I need this box? No, I can remember my gran perfectly well without this item, and the other items I have kept from her as well. I have a table that I'm actually sitting next to right now that belonged to my gran's parents, my great-grandparents, who died when my gran was only a little girl. I have a cup and saucer that my gran bought on her travels when she went to Australia. I've got other things that belong to my mum and my dad. But do I need them to remember them by? Of course not. But they're there because they belonged to them. I can almost imagine Abram looking over Sarai's shoulder as she's packing up the house, although he was meant to be sorting out the sheep and the goats and things, going, "Do we really need that, Sarai? Are you sure we need to take that with us?" That's why we have never moved. There's just too much stuff. Not only the little bits and pieces, but the big stuff like the bed and the three-piece suite, and the table that I've just mentioned. I imagine that when Abram and Sarai moved, their possessions probably just filled a cart, unlike the huge vans and lorries that we use these days. I remember when we moved Michael a couple of years ago, we borrowed a friend's horse box to move him. In fact, we had to do 2 trips. It wasn't big enough for everything they owned. Possessions that we accumulate over the years can be a blessing, or they can be a hindrance. Have a look around your house. See what you've got. I hope you have a good day. The sun is shining here in Darlington. I hope it lasts. Stay safe, and I'll see you again soon.